right, this is the wide stance or sumo deadlift. All right, this is how I teach it when I do it. All right, so the first is going to be my foot position. All right, so my setup, your width is going to be dependent on the person. All right, so regardless of how wide my feet are, I want the bar over my shoelaces, or they say your big toe knuckle, right, where your big toe meets your foot. Your big toe knuckle, the bar should be covering that point, or your shoelaces. Those are your two vantage points. So my feet, how wide do I need to be? For athletes, we should be able to jump from that position. If you're too wide and you can't jump, it's too wide for an athlete. To the same point, if it's too narrow, it becomes a conventional deadlift, which is great, but that's not what we're going for here. All right? So my foot width is going to be about a spot where I can jump outside shoulder width. The second point, when I get into my stance, I want my shins mostly vertical, if you notice here. That way I can put force into the ground optimally. If I'm too wide, force is kind of going out a little bit instead of down, right, in one straight line. So I want my feet outside shoulder width in a position where I could still jump with my shins mostly vertical. All right, so for me, it's about here. All right, I do want my toes turned out slightly, about 15 degrees, not an exact science, right? So that's my foot position. Now, getting down to the bar, I don't need to just squat down. I'm going to drive, this is going to be a common theme. Knees open, butt back. Knees open, butt back until I get to the bar. So I'm shoulders over it, and then it's knees open and back, open and back, open and back. Notice my knees didn't really shoot forward too much. Right? The more forward I am on my feet, the more I'm going to try to push with my quad. In this case, we don't want that. The whole point of a sumo deadlift is to produce lateral force, which we'll talk about in a second, and really engage the glutes and the hips in a more lateral force pattern. Right? So if I go knees forward, I try to push. One, I'm going to come in a little bit. Two, I kind of defeat the purpose. I might as well just squat at that point. So I'm going to go knees open, butt back, until I reach the bar. And then it's going to be 1, 2, my setup. Notice, in this case, my elbows are inside my knee, right? And not on top of my leg. What you'll see is sometimes kids grabbing outside, and now I'm kind of out in front of my foot. My hands are too wide. I'm kind of on top of my knee here. I want to be inside the knee so I can stay shoulders back. Once I'm here, my first move is going to be to create tension against the bar. If you hear that click, right, that's pulling the space between the top of the plate and the bar out. That's called slack, right? So my first move, once I find my feet and get down to the bar, is to pull that slack out and get my shoulder blades back. That's going to give me some tension, so when I push away from the ground, it doesn't just yank against my back. All right, so my feet are set, knees open, butt back, pull that slack out. Notice shoulder blades come back, good posture. My first move from here, I'm going to push with my legs, all right? Not just down, but out as well. All right, so I'm almost pushing out of the side of my shoe. You might see my foot roll a little bit. That's how you know I'm pushing more out. This is what makes the wide stance of the sumo deadlift unique, is that lateral force production. And that's why it's a valuable movement for athletes, is it creates that lateral force the way they'll change direction on the field. Right? It kind of uses those same muscles in the same manner they would when they change direction or do anything athletic. So some do argue that the sumo wide stance deadlift has a very high transfer to sports for that reason. You could argue that, or just the unique structure, or the unique use of the hips and glutes with the wide stance make it valuable, because it's really hard to replicate, especially with the kind of load you can move with it, to really strengthen the area of those hip muscles. So it makes it unique, it makes it a good tool for that reason. It's hard to replace. Okay? So, back to my setup. Feet outside shoulder width, butt back, knees open, slack out, and then I'm gonna push out. Once I get to my knee, I'm gonna drive hips through and meet the bar, right? I'm not just picking straight up, and I don't have to lean so far back. Once I'm tight, push away, bottom of the knee, hips through and meet the bar, right? So in one full setup, this is what it's gonna look like. So I find my feet, toes out slightly, squat down to the bar, pull slack out, lats tight, push away, hips through. Control down, lats tight, hips through. Lats tight, hips through. Notice I'm not bouncing off the ground. Each one, it's a deliberate, separate rep. I'm resetting and pushing away. All right, I'm not bouncing off the ground. All right? So I'm going to turn it profile so you can see the setup. And we're going to go through the process one more time. Bars over my shoelaces. Knees out, butt back. Notice my hips are fairly high. Notice it's in one straight line, ankles, knees, hips. I'm not trying to squat the bar off the ground. One common mistake you'll see with this is they'll get too far back and try to squat the bar off the ground simultaneously, where the hips and the bar rise at the same time. We don't want that. If you're going to do that, just squat. You'll get a better movement out of it. In this case, if you notice, shoulders, knees, bar, ankle, all in one straight line. One line of force production, straight down. That's the point of doing a deadlift, right? So I'm not trying to just squat the bar off the ground. So I'm set up, lats tight, push away, hips through, okay? Here's what it looks like. That's the sumo or wide stance deadlift.